Hi, this is Brennan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and I'm just doing a quick review of, I think it was episode 6 of Alien Nation, the First Cigar. I'm not 100% sure on that because I don't have the info right up in front of me, but it was episode 6. Um, and normally I do, 2 or 3 episodes at a time. Today I want to do this episode, and the reason why is I really like this episode. Uh, this episode was notable rewatching it because, and as I explained in my previous videos or my previous podcasts, I saw Alien Nation the series when I was a kid in like the 7th grade, and I haven't seen it since, and so I'm rewatching it, and so it's been a very long time. But I remember really liking the show, and this episode was very illuminating because this is exactly why I like the series. And on the surface, it's not an episode that I that would seem like it would be one that would be a standout episode. It might even almost be described as filler on paper, but I think it's one of the things that makes the show work. And the reason is this one has, I mean, it has some procedural action stuff, but not a whole lot. There's a very slow burn plot line involving a woman in the newcomer community who befriends George and works with the police to help them give them information on the area of LA where the newcomers live is called Slagtown, and she helps them to to bust a lot of local drug dealers. Now, spoilers: it turns out that she is a drug kingpin herself, and she's actually just trying to expand her territory. So she's using this relationship to do that. But I have to emphasize that's a very slow burn. It happens over the duration of the entire episode, and while it's an important plot point, a lot of the other stuff going on that's feeding into this plot line has more to do with IRS troubles and with a small plot line involving Buck, the son, who gets a job at kind of a scam real estate office that doesn't really exist. And so it's almost, I mean, again, there is a plot there, and it's pretty exciting actually when you think about it, but it's really almost more of a hangout episode. Uh, and I think that's why I like the episode and why I like the show so much, because the stuff that really makes this work is how believable all of the material is. And so you're sort of dealing with like all of the elements of this alien culture that's come to the US and is now assimilating in various ways and resisting assimilation in various ways and finding its place in the society. And so in that sense, it's like reminiscent of stuff like The Godfather and that type of thing, where it just, I don't know, I just this just the way that um all that stuff plays out in the episode. Everything from the little customs that you learn about from George, who's the one of the main characters, who's a newcomer, with having this connection with this woman in Slagtown, and you getting a sense of what this community looks like and how it's taking shape, and also the stuff going on with Buck, where the thing that he's selling, the imaginary real estate that he's selling is and again, they're called tectonies, like that's the official term for the aliens. He's selling a tectonese community, selling shares of like basically selling condos of in a planned community, this tectonies. They're affected by salt water, so it's like 1,400 miles inland from salt water, and it's away from they eat all of their meat raw. They don't like the smell of burning meat, so it's away from all that stuff. I mean, it doesn't exist, but the way that the guy who's conning everybody, who's also a newcomer, is painting this community, it's like their ideal. It's a way for them to have their culture here on Earth, and also avoid some of the dangers that they have to deal with in places like LA and things like that. So that's interesting, but also just the way the show is written. The way that some of the more interesting stuff is dealing with George dealing with the IRS, and him kind of going from being very by the book and really embracing a lot of the ideals of being a police officer, of being an American, but then misunderstanding some of the nuances of it, and then finding that he's railing against the IRS because they're auditing him and they're penalizing him because his deductions were wrong and there were irregularities. All that stuff I thought was really enjoyable to watch. The stuff that didn't necessarily have to do with the drug dealer stuff or that was peripherally related was almost more engaging. Now the drug dealing plot line was also interesting. There was the woman who is the drug kingpin, and again this gets into some of the subtext of the episode. Obviously, her name is Betsy Ross, and again they play with names a lot in this show because the newcomers were assigned names, kind of like if your family came in from Ellis Island, like my grandfather's family, their name was Cento Fanti, and it got changed to Fanti. So it's a play on that, on how the names often get changed when people come to the U.S. type of a thing. And here, a lot of the people who assigned them names were either resentful or being playful and assigned them names that were humorous. So like George, his name is Sam Francisco, and her name was Betsy Ross. But in this episode, it's they really play into the use of those kinds of names because it turns out that she's not just a drug kingpin, but she's an overseer. It turns out that she has the overseers have these tattoos on their wrists, and they're the ones that enslaved the newcomers on the ship. They seem to be the same species. They seem to be the same type of aliens, but they have a whole different mentality, and they've kind of they're almost like like Nazis that escaped to South America or something. So it's she's kind of like a lot of the episode is George sort of being enchanted by America and then being disenchanted by America, being enchanted by Earth and disenchanted by Earth, and his relationship with Betsy Ross, where he's initially enchanted by her and then befriends her, and she even helps him, and then he comes to have this bleaker view of the lady. So I don't know, it was an interesting episode. I thought that I don't know. I thought that like I said, the domestic stuff, the hangout stuff was a little more interesting than the actual drug plotline, which was fine and kind of cool. Like the Betsy Ross character is very. I can't remember if she sticks around. They arrested her this episode, and there's a whole thing where the captain wants to make a deal with her, and Sykes and George go against the captain's wishes and arrest her anyways. But I can't remember, but I'm kind of hoping she makes a return because she's a really interesting villain. She's kind of got like a Mrs. Poole quality, but she's evil. So she's like an evil Mrs. Poole, and Mrs. Poole is probably an old reference, but from the Hogan Family, Mrs. Poole. And if you didn't see the Hogan Family, the secretary from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, she's just got this I don't know, this is like den mother vibe or something. So I'm hoping she makes a return because she's also that is really disarming. When she becomes sinister, it really feels sinister. And the way that she takes out some of her rivals was really, for a TV show, I thought really impressive. But again, I like the writing of this episode. There was a scene where he's having the financial troubles, and his daughter, I think her name is Emily, she offers to give him $140 because she has it in her piggy bank. And when she said that, I was like, wow, $140 in a piggy bank. Who's got that? I never had that kind of money as a kid. I was never able to save up that much. So it was a little bit odd, but it worked because then later on she gives the money to Buck to buy her a share because she wants to invest in the thing that Buck's involved in. I don't know. I like that. I mean, again, it's a little bit. I like when things line up, when they mention something and then it kind of comes up later. Sometimes it feels a little too lined up, but here, I don't know. I liked it because it stuck in my brain just enough. It was like, oh, that's kind of a lot of money for a kid. And then when they mentioned it later that she had 140 she needed $100 to invest. That was the other thing. It wasn't. If it was exactly the amount, it would have felt weird. But because she had enough but over, it was more believable. But yeah, again, this was and the other thing in this episode is there's a new drug called Jonathan, and I think the street name is Jack, and it's used both by newcomers and by humans. It's like really addictive, and again, this show is set in the 90s. The show came out in '89, so it's near future, and they call it the crack of the '90s. I think the crack of the '90s was probably still crack. I don't or I don't know. I can't remember if we had new drugs that came out in the '90s, but anyways, it was that was kind of an interesting touch. I like on science fiction shows when they come up with a new drug, and it just amplifies some of the intensity of things. And they also mentioned that they have a freon. Like people aren't allowed to use freon because the ozone layer. Like in '89, we were very worried about the ozone layer, and so they sort of project things out into the '90s and assume that the ozone layer is much more depleted and all that sort of thing. I don't remember what actually happened to the ozone layer. Actually, I feel like it started to get resolved somehow. I hope it got resolved, but anyways, because of the ozone layer, there are regulations on ozone, and so everybody is hot this episode because they can't use air conditioners, and they even can't use refrigerators, it seems like. But also because of the hole in the ozone layer, things are getting hotter. So there's just this general sense that things are getting hotter over the course of the episode. So no, this was an episode, and again, I can't really pinpoint exactly what it is. I mean, I tried to lay out why I liked it, but this is now becoming clear to me why I like this show. When I saw this episode, it was like a light bulb went off. So I wanted to do a recording just to talk about this one episode, because this was definitely why I like the show. And again, I think my main thing that I like about it is the cultural stuff with the newcomers and the hangout stuff. That's really what I like. The action stuff is okay. I don't necessarily need that. I like it when it's cool. Like I know there's an episode that I really remember where they had and it might have been one of the movies. I don't know, because I probably did end up seeing some of the movies and just thinking it was a show. But there was an episode where they have the saltwater Russian roulette, and that was really cool. And so when they do stuff like that, where they delve into, when the action is centered around learning about the newcomer ships or their culture or whatever, that stuff always interests me. I like when they utilize the science fiction elements, and but still kind of, it's still like domestic and hangout. I think that's I don't know. Hopefully I explained what I think the strengths of this show are, but yeah, now it's becoming very clear to me why I like this show. And I have to say, for the period it was written, I think it's good. I think it's very good writing for the time. I was trying to put myself in that headspace of what else would have been on the air at this time. What would I have been consuming? I'm guessing like Doogie Howser. I can't remember exactly when Doogie Howser came out. I feel like it was 89, 90. I feel like this is around the same time that Doogie Howser came out. I could be off by a year or so. And, there's a lot of Stephen Bochco stuff. So I feel like, this would have stood out very well. And I think that's why. And again, I was only in like 7th grade. But yeah, I think deservedly it stood out. And also I have to say, it's the series itself. The pilot episode is a little goofy because they cram so much in there, and it's a little bit like, it's good, but it's a little bit clunky at times. And the rest of the show so far has been quite good. I think it's been better than the pilot. And I don't know if that was actually a proper pilot. It might just been one of these things where it's episode 1 and they called it pilot, but they had a whole series lined up anyways. Because I don't remember there being any changes from the pilot to the rest of the show. So yeah, so that's those are my thoughts. Oh, the other thing was the humor there, and again, the humor and how risque it is. Like there was one scene where George is just talking with Sykes, and I forget what they're talking about, but he's basically saying like, I wouldn't miss it for the world. And so he says, wild whores couldn't drag me away, and he's trying to say wild horses, but I don't know. Again, I think it's the actor that plays George. He just does a good job with that kind of stuff. He was able to do like a stupid joke like that, landed really well with that actor. And also when he was doing this thing where he was reciting the Constitution and like and just like important quotes related to American history when he was trying to stand up to the IRS, because he didn't understand that he had crossed this line that you don't tell the IRS off, type of a thing. He admires sort of American rebelliousness against authority, and he doesn't realize that there's a strong line when it comes to the IRS, and so he kind of goes on a rant. And I don't know. I thought it was very charming. I liked it. So yeah. So again, I'm really enjoying this, and I look forward to the next episode. hopefully I'll be able to watch it tonight, and maybe I'll have another recording up. I just wanted to get this one out for this one episode because it really was like a light bulb moment for me, and that's probably what I'm going to do going forward. If an episode is really stand out and just I really want to talk about it, I'll just dedicate the podcast to that one episode, and it'll probably be 15 to 20 minutes because I don't think I'm going to need to go on for 30 minutes like I might for the double episodes. And yeah, and again, for those who want to watch it, I know it's on Prime to rent or to buy. I think I bought it. It is a little bit of an investment, so if you're not sure, check out the trailers on YouTube. I think I saw the episodes up on YouTube somewhere, and I think that they have them on. I heard Disney Plus. You might be able to, if you have Disney Plus, check. Maybe you have it there. I actually haven't checked Netflix, which is probably stupid of me because if it's up there, I wouldn't have had to buy it. So I do recommend it, but I don't think it's for everybody. So look into it before you rent or buy it. I wouldn't want you to spend money on something and then realize, oh, this is a hokey show from the '90s that I have no interest in. So yeah. So and again, it's that period. It's really before the '90s. This came out in '89 and went into '90. And that's not the '90s yet. That's still very much the '80s. That was a very odd year for media, that period. Because I remember I moved back to Massachusetts, and everything that I consumed that year is really burned into my brain. And I remember even thinking at the time that we were in like a weird media I just remember feeling like a lot of movies felt odd and strange, and like things that kind of like I don't know. 2 years before that, say like 1987, movies knew what they were, if that makes any sense. And then by '89, it was very unclear what they were. I don't know how to explain it, but that was just my impression as a kid, and it's kind of stuck with me when I go back and watch these things. So yeah, so I'll let you go, and I will talk to you later.